everybody, I'm Visibly Riley, and today we will conclude my recounting of the Emerald Dragon GT with Day 2. Currently, I am 3-0-0 on the event, so 3 wins, 0 draws, 0 losses, so I'm sitting at the king of the hill, I believe. And yeah, let's get into it, starting with a brief recounting of my army list. So starting out, we have 2 hordes of kindred archers. One has the Heart-Seeking Chant and the other the Chant of Hatred. Then we have 2 regiments of 4 shamblers, a horde of Draken Riders with Brew of Strength, a regiment of War Chariots with Fire Oil, an ASB with Diadem of Dragonkind and a mount, 1 Elven Mage with Alchemist Curse 10 and a mount, 2 Elven Princes, both of whom are mounted with Pussycats, a Tree Herder with Blessing of the Gods and Blizzard 2, and Nyx the Magic Dragon to round it out. I'm not sure I actually have mentioned this in previous recountings of this list, but I have the Fire Oil on those War Chariots specifically because I thought Nyx and Imraloth would be the most popular choices. I've sort of gone back on my Shenron is obviously the best. I think Shenron is great, and I think if you're going to build a list to win this event, you probably are going to go Hyper Aggression, but if you're not, Nyx is just amazing, so I don't think you can go wrong. So yeah, I'm elevating Nyx up there. So moving forward, we go into Game 4 against the Salamanders, and the scenario this time around was Pillage. So here is my opponent's army list. We open with the Inspiration of the Ancients formation, which involves 2 regiments of Ancients, a Clan Lord, and in this case, the Clan Lord has Banner of the Griffin and a mount. In this formation, the Ancients both gain Inspiring, and the Clan Lord becomes Fearless and gains Rally 1. So with that Banner of the Griffin, it's Rally 2. Then we have a troop of Gekota Warriors, a horde of Tyrants, a horde of Ancients on Rhinosaurs with the Potion of the Caterpillar, a horde of Gekota Sky Raiders with Jar of 4 Winds, our Tackle, Mage Priest with Heal 3 and Shroud of the Saint, so Heal 6 effectively, a Commodon, 2 Lachilodons, and Nyx, of course, to round it out. My thoughts on this army, I'm sure I've played it before on the channel, just because I've played against this person for many years, and yeah, I like the vast majority of it. I think the Inspiration of the Ancients is an auto-include, at least until October when version 3 comes out. But I look at the Gekota Warriors and I go, they're probably pretty good in a lot of matchups, but they're going to be terrible in this one, just because it's so easy for me to pick them out. I've got a lot of height 3, height 4 shooting. Well, not a lot, but I do have it. So I'm not sure about that. Otherwise, the rest is pretty good. I know a lot of people love Lachilodons and they think they're excellent. They never work for me, but they always work against me. So yeah, we'll see about it. Them heuristics, man. So here we see the table. Starting in the bottom right, we have a height flat piece of terrain. Right above it, we have 2 height 1 obstacles attached to a height 4 impassable, and unlike in the previous game against the Trident Realm where we played this as a square, right, in this game we're playing this L cutout as actually not impassable, so we're going to be Tetrising our models in there. So anyway, to the right of that we have a height 2 hill, and then to the left of that house we have a height 6 forest. Then in the center of the field we have a very large height flat piece of terrain with 2 height 1 obstacles in it. Then above it, we have again a large height 4 impassable, and again, it's the entire base of the model, not just the model. Below that, we have a height 2 hill, and finally, down in my deployment zone, a height 6 forest. There might be some more terrain off here to the right, although I doubt it. I don't think there is. So yeah, let's get into the deployment, starting with, let's talk about the scenario. So Pillage is a very simple scenario. Generally, you get D3 plus 4 tokens. In this event, we all just got 5 tokens. Deploying 7 tokens is also kind of arduous. So anyway, we have 5 tokens total. You roll off. Each player rolls off. The winner gets to deploy 3 tokens, the other person deploys 2. And as I said before, my opponent and I have played many a game against each other. So in this game, we literally threw the tokens at the table, and wherever they landed is where they landed. So we made sure that they were, oh, that was a great straight line. So we made sure that they are more than 12 inches apart, but otherwise, where they go is where they go. So we have 1 objective here, 1 objective here. I believe, well, there's one, so there's 1 here, 1 over by this hill, and 1 in this deployment zone. My opponent I believe, lost the roll-off, and I still chose this side of the table because I'm close enough to this token. That token back there actually forces you to be out of range for shooting, so I didn't really want it. And yeah, I can grab this one and still be behind this wall. So that's the plan. Let's talk about the deployment real quick, starting with the salamanders on the left. So first off, we have the horde of Gekota Sky Raiders with the Jar of 4 Winds. Next to them is our Toggle behind this house. My opponent has learned in our many practice games that our Toggle should not be anywhere where she can be seen, or I will blizzard her off the table. So then we have Nyx to the right of all that. To the right of Nyx, we have the 1st Regiment of Ancients. Then we have the Tyrants. Then again, the 2nd Regiment of Ancients. To the right of that, we have 2 Lachilodons in the woods, a Commodon in the woods, and behind them, that is the Mage Priest with Shroud of the Saint and Heal 3. And then we have the horde of Ancients on Rhinosaurs right here, and in front of them, behind this large house, is the troop of Gekota Hunters. So a pretty standard deployment, I think, for this sort of a salamander list. You break up in the middle, you get all your artillery dinosaurs into a forest, and then the Gekota Sky Raiders come around somewhere on a flank, right? So that's about it. The, classic pincer move, pretty easy. As for the elves, we have 2 regiments of Shamblers that have already vanguarded forward, along with the Tree Daddy himself, with Blessing of the Gods and Blizzard 2, also vanguarded. Then we have a horde of archers down here in the woods with the Heart-Seeking Chant. To the right of it, we have my Alchemist Curse Mage. To the right of that, we have my Regiment of Chariots with Fire Oil. To the right of that, we have the 2nd horde of archers with the Chant of Hatred. And below them, both of the princes. Then to the right of all that, we have Nyx. Behind her is my ASB. And this proxy base is where the Draken Riders actually are, because they don't play well with Nyx's wings. So anyway, that is the deployment. Basically, my plan was to keep this objective, take this objective, and then I'll sort of figure out which one I can win. This one would be great, just because it's behind this building. It's difficult to get to, and my opponent is very infantry based comparatively. Well, I guess we're both about the same, but if I can take out these Ancients on Rhinosaurs, I win that fight, and my Draken Riders are far more mobile. So those are the 3 I'm focusing on, while this one in the back, I can't really get to it, and this one in the middle is just not worth going for me, as my opponent has a much better place to deploy in the center than I do, and this is going to be a problem. The giant piece of height flat terrain for me to charge through. So I'm pretty much going to just seed this and let it go. And that's it. So let's move on to turn 1. So turn 1 goes to the salamanders, and they advance forward. First off, we've got the Gekota over here. They're facing like so into the table. Our Toggle also runs around the building just to get some shots onto these Shamblers. We have Nyx also taking aim on my Shamblers, the Ancients on Rhinos, or just Ancients, just sort of coming around the side here, along with the Tyrants and the other Ancients. So this is becoming a new battle line, while these ones just sort of try to get around this big piece of height flat. I'm not sure about this. I probably would have placed them right here, right? Just maintain the battle line, because these Shamblers are likely going to die. Versus all this shooting, right? And even if they don't, they're 1 regiment of Shamblers. Who cares? So I probably would have pushed over here just to help support against this. But anyway, my opponent does not. Then we have the Lachilodons advancing just a little bit forward so they can have range. The Commodon already has range. The Priest smartly stays behind the forest so it cannot be picked on by my Blizzard Wizard. And then the Ancients on Rhinosaurs, you can see their base popping out right there, right? So the Ancients on Rhinosaurs are here with the Gekota Hunters right in front of them. My opponent plans, I believe, to take the Lachilodons here and probably shoot into the Chariots because they are the weakest unit I have exposed here. I do have cover versus this Lachilodon due to the obstacle, but this Lachilodon has a clean shot, and the Commodon, I believe, is indirect fire. So yeah, some pretty decent shots there, but I'm not too afraid. I mean, one Lachilodon's hitting on 4s, the other one's on 5s, and the Commodon, I mean, it's a big artillery piece. It hits or it doesn't, so no use crying over it. I do know that the Gekkotai I pointed to before are just out of... I think they're in line of sight of my Draken Riders, but I'm in their flank and I can't land, so it doesn't really matter. It's kind of a moot point there. And let's see how it all goes. So here is the end of turn shot. You can see that the Shamblers that were here are killed out. Nyx, my opponent rolls fairly well here. Nyx hits with 7 attacks and does 7 wounds, pushing me all the way back. But that's after our Toggle and the Gekkotai shoot, and I'm at like 16 wounds, just dead. Then we have the shooting. So first off, the Lakildons choose to shoot instead at these Shamblers. Since my opponent, I think we figured out that this Lakildon, if it shoots at my chariots, I still have cover, and so they went for the closer threat instead. They do like 1 or 2 damage, it's not that big of a deal. And then the Commodon hits with 2 attacks, I want to say, and thankfully doesn't roll that high. I think it's only 4 total shots. And does 2 wounds to me, because it's like Pierce 3 vicious, so it's pretty brutal, but doesn't quite do anything else. Oh, I forgot to mention the Clan Lord. So the Clan Lord deployed on the flank to protect against my Drakens in case I ran forward, but since my opponent got turn 1, he just runs over here to try to sort of fix this deployment and get back into the middle where that Banner the Griffin is of better use. So that's the plan, and let's move on to turn 1 elves. So turn 1 elves is interesting. I saw this when my opponent was moving, and again, a lot of people forget, even though shamble's in the name, that shamblers in fact shamble. So I take my shamblers, I'm gonna say shamble a lot, take my shamblers, walk over this wall, and I can fit, so my leader point is currently in the flank of these tyrants. I'm not touching the wall at all, and I'm an inch away, I'm a little over an inch away because I couldn't quite get the math to work out, but I only need a surge of a 2, and I've got surge 8 elite here ready to set up this flank charge on the tyrants, and that would be pretty great, because right now I'm definitely behind in the game, so losing my shamblers to nothing and taking some pip damage I don't really want to take. Next up, I take Nyx, who is actually facing like so facing forward, but she doesn't play well with her wings, so facing towards the fight here. I plan to just take Nyx and then this horde of archers, since they had to move anyway to shoot, I believe. Oh no, it's yeah, I think they had to move anyway to shoot. So I decided to move the horde of archers forward, and I can take shots at on these ancients if I want. They do not have cover now that I'm touching the barrier, or I can shoot into the Lakildons. So it really depends on what Nyx does. So if Nyx hits a good breath attack onto a Lakildon, I will try to go for this 6s to hit with my archers, assuming I don't push them out of the woods, but you know what happens. And then my chariots here just stay still because there's no reason to move. The Draken Riders run around, so I've moved my Draken Riders so they are just out of charge range of either unit, I believe, because I don't want to get grounded just yet. And I've also moved them into the forest now, so because with flying, you can fly out of the forest and not be hindered. You just can't land in it. So that's the plan. It protects me from shooting a little bit, although there isn't that much that can actually get to them. I mean, Nyx could fly over here, I guess, but who cares? The other archers, of course, just stay still because there's no reason to move. But because of this giant piece of terrain right in the middle of the field, I can shoot, but everything has cover. It's really easy. So it's an interesting terrain layout in that way, that you can always shoot, but you'll almost always be shooting at cover. So I guess that's the plan. So that's it, and let's see how it goes. Oh, I also move my princes. So I've got 1 prince here, 1 prince here. The idea is to move forward and get the chaff next turn. So I want this prince to go forward and then also throw a cat at one of the Lakildons. And then I have an alchemist curse here for the tyrant. I think that's what I end up doing with most of my army. Is I plan to just shoot into the tyrants to get the pip damage up, so this flank charge will kill them, because there's still a 15, 18 or something with Fury, or 14, 17 I think. So yeah, that's the plan, and let's see how it turns out. Oof. So yeah, I do actually have to get the shooting in here. My Alchemist Curse doesn't do anything. Nyx only lands 3 hits, so you know, with my opponent 7 and my 3, we get that awesome 10. But I don't do enough damage, and I failed to wound, I believe, with 1 or 2 of them there. So I don't do enough damage to actually force this Kilodon into danger zone. So instead, I just take this horde of shots along with my Alchemist Curse and shoot at the Tyrants for a bit of pip damage there. And I manage it along. I think my Chariot's also shot there. This unit is so I was using this as a proxy. This was the unit of rank. Shamblers that had died, and I was using them as a proxy unit to show how I could move with that surge shenanigan. So they'll be removed by next turn. This horde of archers shoots into these ancients. I get some decent damage there, but not enough to really force anything. I'm out of. I would have loved to shoot at the Gekota, but my opponent is playing canny and staying out of range of my archers. So within their leader point is within the corner of my unit, but not within the leader point of my actual unit. So and that's it. So I've lost 1 regiment of Shamblers. My opponent has lost a horde of Tyrants, but I've got a bunch of damage units. I do have these Shamblers are not in line of sight of those Ancients, so they can pretty much do whatever they want. They can act with impunity, and I'm trying to kind of get a repeat of game 1 where my Shamblers just run around getting flanks and rears, and we'll see if I can manage it. So here is turn 2. Turn 2 for the Salamanders looks like this. So first off, we've got the Gekota Sky Raiders just flying over behind this hill. The idea is, 1, they're not in line of sight of my archers, so they've already bypassed that. And 2, no matter how I move the archers, they will have cover. So again, going for those 6s to hit. Our Tackle just runs all the way over here to be a nuisance on the next turn. I think originally my opponent's list had teleport for our Tackle, but took it out. So those first 2 turns are kind of dead turns for her. We have the Ancients turning towards my Shamblers, which I think is the smart move. Means they can't go after the archers, but does mean that these Shamblers are probably not long for the world. Nyx sets herself up to maybe go for the archers if the damage is high enough, or to go after one of these characters. These Ancients also turn, as you can see, to face towards my army, along with this Kilodon moving back into the fight because I failed to waver it. The other Kilodon and Commandant just stay still. This mage now comes around the side to get a heal going. I think, oh no, I'm sorry, it gets exactly within 12 inches here for a fireball on these Shamblers if they need it, or can heal the Kilodon. On the right, you can see my opponent's Gekota warriors, that's what they're called, moving forward to block the charge for my Draken Riders. I can't land here, obviously, but I'm really unperturbed by that because I think with my breath attack here, I can just move around, shoot them because they're only an 8-10 nerve, kill them off with a breath attack, and then also keep my Drakens out of 14 for the Rhinosaurs. If I don't kill them, I'm only getting charged by Gekota as a troop. They have a fair number of attacks. I think they're 15 attacks on a troop, but they only hit on a 5, so I don't really care too much. And yeah, that's about it. So let's see how it all goes. And here's the end of the turn. So these Shamblers are still alive, which is very fortuitous for me. My opponent does, however, manage to kill my Alchemist Curse mage, which is a smart pick. Nyx just goes in there and again hits 7 times and again wounds me. I think she only wounds me 6 times that time, but that's 14 out of 20 4+. Yeah, so my Nyx is gonna have to pick up the slack. But yeah, so my Alchemist Curse is gone. But my Shamblers are still alive. My archers, both my archer hordes, take some damage here. This is from the Gekota Sky Raiders. They managed 3 wounds on me, which is, it's okay. And then this Kilodon fires into my archers and does 4 wounds on 4+ to hit. So my opponent rolling a little hot now. And the Commandant, I believe, goes for my chariots, pushing them up to 8 damage, but does not get the kill, which is lucky for me. So if you take the entire roll into account, so hit, wound, and nerve, my opponent's only rolling slightly above average at this point, even though it feels like it's significantly above average. You got to count those nerve checks too. So we move forward into turn 2 for the elves. So turn 2 elves. Originally, this little guy right here is here because I'd put down one of my princes again on the edge of this. So if my tree herder wants to charge, it's not a hindered charge. But then with with this guy right here, these ancients are a -19. So it's just terrible dice. I'm not going to go for that. So instead, I just take the prince back. This is a bad move. This should not be flush. Maybe I just decided that since only Nyx can charge me, it's just not that big of a deal. But anyway, that's where the prince goes. This prince just runs forward. Again, I'm gonna go for the throwing cats at people. Either I can go for this will kill it on, or this will kill it on, I believe. And then that's or the Banner the Griffin guy himself. I don't think I can see or hit the Commandant. I think it's too far away, but I'm out of charge range or charge arc of the ancients, so that's the plan. These shamblers of course go into the other ancients. Next up, I brought my ASB around just like I said I would, basically swinging it around to fire into these Gekota warriors. I'm hoping for a decent nerve here. The ASB has been quite the Gatling gun in my practice game, so yeah, that would be a great pickup there, as I am currently out of 14 of these Ancients on Rhinosaurs. This is greater than 2 inches, so the ASB is not in, and the Draken Riders are not in, along with Nyx. Nyx is definitely in. I don't know what happens there, but anyway, moving forward, we've got, again, all of my range units just sort of staying still. I don't see a point in taking these archers and trying to engage the Gekota right now. It's just not worth it. There are plenty of targets in the center of the field that need my gentle ministrations first. So let's see how that all turns out. And I don't take the tree man and go for this charge in the end. Yeah, as I said before, it's just not worth the effort, and I do have some pretty decent blizzard targets I can go for instead, so I go for that. And here is the end of turn shot, which is, so first off, my shamblers do not manage to break that regiment of ancients. Who would have guessed? So yeah, we go there. I do throw a cat at this Lachilodon. I don't do very well. I think I roll pretty well on the hits. I get some wounds, but again, on that nerve check, I just can't land it. Nyx was definitely within charge of those Rhinosaurs in the flank, but Nyx just flew over this barrier instead, and is exactly out of charge range of the Lachilodons. Granted, they don't have Pathfinder, so they'd only hit me on 6s, but Nyx needs to be shooting every turn if possible, so I'm just going for that. Speaking of that, Nyx goes for the shot here. So I have this cat goes into the Lachilodon, and then I have these archers which can shoot at this clan lord over here, and they don't really do that well, but Nyx shoots at the clan lord in the end. Oh no, I'm sorry, they don't shoot at the clan lord. These archers and the chariots all fire into these ancients, hoping to get rid of them. I push them to needing an 8, I want to say. No, it's got to be a 9. I think they have 10 damage on them because I pushed the banner later out of the way, but I'm sitting here with Nyx and I'm like, well, okay, so I could shoot in here and hope to do some decent damage, or more likely, I mean, I can go for the double kill here, get the ancients, and pick up this this clan lord if I do well with Nyx. Since if I just get a 5 on the push already, I'll be knocking them out of the 6-inch range for the rally 2 bubble anyway. So yeah, I go for that. I do manage to push him. I think I pushed 7, so Nyx just big on 7, except for that my last turn when it didn't do that. But yeah, I push him 7 inches. I do 6 wounds, which is great, and then I kill him on the first roll, feeling good about that. I kill him on the second roll, and then Nyx makes me re-roll it, and I fail. So unfortunately, my opponent's Nyx coming into its own there. But over here with my Gatling gun, I do manage to kill up the Gekota warriors, so, you know, it's not all bad. And we move into turn 3 for the salamanders. Hello everybody. Unfortunately, I lost all the footage for turn 3 here, so I'm going to have to re-record it about 2 weeks later, so let's hope I get all the details right, but if I don't, you'll just have to excuse me. Starting in the bottom left, you can see that the Gekota Sky Raiders have zoomed around, actually I think they came from here, just zoomed around to get out of the line of sight of my archers while still threatening my flanks and threatening to take this objective from me. They currently can't, as they're only 2 unit strength, but if these these archers die, it's gonna be difficult for me to actually get this point, which is important because while it's only turn 3, if you look at the top of the picture here, we only have 24 and 23 minutes left respectively to actually finish this game, so we're gonna have to play a little fast. So otherwise on the table you can see that in the top left, both of the ancients charge into my shamblers, with one taking the rear charge here. Obviously I would not want to eat a rear charge, but these shamblers are already damaged and I want to make sure that these ancients do not come into my center. They can charge into this prince, I'm okay with that, or they can charge into the shamblers and I'm okay with that. So sometimes you got to make sacrifices. The gigantic wood of lizard creatures just remains there to shoot at me, while Nyx moves in front of the clan lord to protect him from shooting, because he's got quite a few wounds on him. I think my opponent's going to go for the heal with the mage priest behind Nyx here, but if that heal fails, they just want to make sure that I cannot just snipe the clan lord out before it does anything. So a prudent move, as there's no way I can see it otherwise. In the bottom right, you can see these rhinosaurs have decided to force the issue. I think my opponent feels that they've held back too long, as my shooting game is a little bit more developed than theirs. I just have better shooting, so they need to make sure that this dump truck gets into my lines as quickly as possible. And yeah, turn 3 forcing the issue, moving over to the wood, or to this rough terrain, which is a smart move because my Draken Riders cannot move fast enough, or cannot move far enough to actually clear the rhinosaurs and have a 1-inch gap either behind them or to the flank here. So instead they're going, well, you could charge into us, right, but I will be hindered, while if I don't and I just sort of stay still, they have caterpillar potions, so they will not be hindered if they choose to charge me. So a prudent move by my opponent there. And otherwise it's just going to be a pile of shooting this turn. So let's move on to the end of turn shot. So at the end of the turn, you can see the Gekota Skyriders and Artakal have an okay turn shooting into my archers, managing to put them on 12 wounds, but thankfully for the elves, they do not get wavered or, heaven forbid, killed. So that's pretty good. Both the ancients easily kill off those shamblers, although they do make an interesting reform here, and I believe that this mistake is brought to you by just being on clock. So yeah, it's one of those exciting things that happens. So that's pretty cool. And then with my opponent shooting, we've got Nyx shooting into my prince here, pushing them back pretty far, but only managing 3 wounds and not managing to waver or kill it, while the Lachilodons fire into this prince and also manage to not waver or kill it. So both the princes are operational for this coming turn 3 for the elves. So turn 3 for the elves looks a little like this at the beginning. In the bottom, you can see I finally turned my archers to face this threat. They're both within charge range of me now, and Gekota Skyriders are not bad at a charge, and I want to make sure that, you know, they don't have the option for a flank. So I want to keep them shooting at me. So I turn there to shoot right back at them. I take my other archers and I want to, okay, so here we go. First off, my Draken Riders have one move they can make to get away from these rhinosaurs, which is to jump this wall and then just turn around. So they turn a little bit, land on the wall, but they're flyers, or land on top of the ASB probably, but they're flyers, so then they can pivot again, or the ASB just moves after them. I'm not sure which happens, but they end up behind this wall, letting the lizards just stare directly at their butt. Not my favorite position, but I have to dodge these rhinosaurs. I can't engage them right here. The wall is actually really good for engagement because even if I choose to not fight them next turn, they have Pathfinder and not Strider, so they can charge me into the wall or over the wall and eat that minus, while I have flight, so as long as I don't land on the wall, I'm good to go. So that's the plan there. And then I take these archers who now want to make sure that they are not going to get charged by the rhinosaurs, so they run away. And then I just I charge them with a prince to make sure that the rhinosaurs stay over there. So these archers they have not run, they've just moved because I want to combine their fire with my other archers into the Gekota and hopefully get them tenderized for this coming turn. So we'll see what we can do about that. We have my tree herder taking the hindered charge into the flank of these wounded ancients. I believe these ones have 7 wounds and these ones have 6 wounds, but again, it's been 2 weeks, so maybe it's reversed. But yeah, so I think that these guys have 7. I'm going into the flank there, and here's the big play, which is I have this Prince and I charge into Nyx. I need to do a wound here because I don't want Nyx to rear charge my Draken Riders here. And if they do rear charge my Draken Riders, I definitely don't want her to have any thunderous charge. I want her to be wounding me on normal rolls. So I go in there, I've got 3 attacks, I hit on a 3 with Elite, and then I wound on a 5 because Nyx has the weakness aura, so it's stripping my crushing away. And then I use my Nyx to hopefully take out this one Lakilodon because it can also charge the Draken Riders in the rear, and I don't want that to happen. So that's I'll always push it the 1 inch, right? That's the whole plan. I do make a slight mistake here, which is I should have moved my Nyx actually just right in front of the Draken Riders, I think, because if I had moved them there, I could have blocked this charge at all into my Drakens. Nyx, it would be impossible. And if Nyx without Thunderous Charge charges into the front of my Nyx, I'm not worried about that. So, small mistakes, but moving on. Here we see the end of the turn. So at the end of the turn here, in the bottom left, you can't really see it because I didn't take a picture of it, but these 2 archers combine their weight onto the Sky Raiders and remove them, and that is enormous. That is huge. As I haven't done any wounds to them yet. I just fire on them this turn. I hit on 5s with both units because of either move or cover. Actually, I think they're both just move. So hitting on 5s with both units, I have Elite, and then I have Piercing on 1 and Vicious on the other, which is pretty good against defense 3 units, but I managed to get them high enough that I can high roll it. I think I get a 9 to kill them. So yeah, get them out of there. Then the Tree Herder does manage to finish off these Ancients with its with its flank charge, and so that is a big boon as well. I do manage 1 wound on Nyx. I think I managed actually 2 wounds on Nyx here, but shut down that Thunderous, so that's really good. And my Prince, I believe, manages 1 wound on the Rhinosaurus to strip them out the Thunderous, not that it's hyper relevant. Oh, and I kill off this Lakilodon in the woods, so finally I've got one. So things really good elf turn 3, but let's see what the Salamanders can do with their turn 4. Turn 4. So turn 4 Salamanders, you can see here that Nyx has a rear charge and takes that rear charge. This is a big money play, and I think my opponent, again, we are on very little time, but I think my opponent was looking at the table state and just going, well, I need a big money play. I need these Draken Riders to be killed or wavered to make sure that they actually win this game. So it's an interesting gamble. Then we have these Ancients going into my Prince, so that's not terribly surprising. Why would you want to fight an unwounded Tree Herder in the front? So also hindered. I don't think Ancients had Pathfinder. So yeah, going into this Prince, then we have the Lakilodon just taking aim, I think, at my Nyx, while the Commodon that was here runs around because it needs to be threatening this objective next turn, because it might be our last due to time. We've got the Clanlord just running behind the woods, just saving those attrition points and spreading the Rally and Inspire Bubble a little bit over here. And in the bottom left, the last remaining Gekota moves in on these archers, hoping to kill them off. So yep, and then we have the Rhinosaurus going into my Prince. So I don't actually have an end of turn shot because this was the end of the turn shot. And so things that happen are, it's an interesting turn. So we've got, in the top left, we've got this Prince end up being wavered by the Ancients. So that's good for the Ancients, but not great. Obviously, killing it would have been great, and having it fully operational would have been amazing for me because I could have gone into a Kilodon. But anyway, that's what happens there. We've got Nyx going into the Draken Riders, doing, I believe, 6 wounds to them, but does not manage to kill or waver them. And the big thing that happens is down here in the right side of the picture, which is the Rhinosaurs go into my Prince, and it was actually a good thing that I stripped them out their Thunderous because they don't do enough wounds to they do like 2 or 3 wounds total, and they don't do enough wounds to kill it or even waver it. It's fully operational, except it is disordered, so it can't throw that cat. But that means these Draken Riders just have a hindered flank charge into them, so that is bad news bears for the Rhinosaurs. And in the bottom left, the Artacle does try, does not do very well against my archers here, only managing 1 wound, but does not need that many to get a waiver or even better a kill. Thankfully for me, neither happen. So we move on to turn 4 for the elves. So turn 4 elves looks a little like this. We've got Artacle here. I'm just gonna try to kill it off because Artacle and Nyx are the only 2 things that can actually kill these archers off anymore. I'm not afraid of the Lachilodons. They've got they have to double move because they are more than 24 inches away from me. So they'll have to double move if they want in on them. And I don't think there's enough time to do that. So yeah, just got to kill off these 2. I move my ASB over to also shoot at Artacle just in case. I do have height 2. Artacle has cover and a million other rules, but it's 5+ to hit, so I'll take the Gatling gun there. We have these archers just turn and face like so to make sure that they're ready to go against everything that happens. We have, because this prince was merely wavered, we have another flank charge from my tree herder. This time it's unhindered because I don't end up over the wall, or maybe I do. I do not end up over the wall. So yeah, another flank charge onto another wounded unit of ancients. Pretty good for the for my tree herder. And down here in the bottom right, this is actually the end of turn shot, of course, because I'm going too fast to take a lot of pictures and I'd had a lot to drink, so yeah. But yeah, I sent the Draken Riders into the flank of the Rhinosaurs that were here, and I need to make sure that the opponent's Nyx is not here. So I move my Nyx just barely in front of my opponent's Nyx to use a Wind Blast because I need to make sure that I have my full crushing against these Rhinosaurs and I'm not affected by weakness. So yeah, my Nyx could have done a flank charge onto my opponent's Nyx, but I don't need it. It was unwounded. Nyx only has 7 attacks that wound on a 4+, a hit on a 3, wound on a 4, 14 total on the flank. That's not enough to get that to that -17. So I choose to instead just push her away to make sure that I get weakness off. But yeah, at the end of the turn, you can see this is the way it ends up. I'd only managed 2 wounds versus Artacle, which was fairly disappointing because I have 20 elite archers hitting on 6s, granted, or 7s? Does Artacle have stealth? I don't know, but so anyway, it's either 6s or 7s, but the big thing is that I have this Gatling gun, and I know it's not, you know, on average it doesn't do that well, probably does about 1 or 2 wounds, but this thing has been money in every game so far, but unfortunately cannot nail this one little lizard girl. So yeah, an unfortunate bit there, but the rest of the turn goes swimmingly. I don't manage to kill off these ancients, which is unfortunate. I merely get I don't even think I get a waiver, so yeah, big flub by the tree herder here, but the rest of it goes, the thing that had to happen, which is the Rhinosaur is dead, that does happen, and I did manage to do a couple of wounds here and there, so I'm okay with this turn. And unfortunately, I forgot to take any more pictures of this game. On turn 6, I had 30 seconds left on the clock. My opponent had 40 seconds, I want to say, or no, at the end of their turn they had 40, so they probably had a minute. So with my opponent's turn 6, the Lachilodon here and Nyx, so this Lachilodon backs up to get onto this objective, and Nyx shoots at my Draken Riders, gets the kill, so they're gone. And also, I'm sorry, Nyx does not shoot, Nyx charges the Draken Riders. Again, my Nyx should be blocking that charge, but it is not. So yeah, it goes into the Draken Riders, it gets the kill there. My opponent with this little Lachilodon move also takes the Clan Lord and goes into my tree herder. The Clan Lord is now on, I think it's on 0 wounds because I think my opponent heals it again. Artacle manages a pretty good turn. My archers are on 15 wounds now. It's too many wounds to handle, and manages to get the kill on turn 6, so I don't have this objective anymore. No one does. I don't have this objective. My opponent's Nyx does. I could have this objective with my Nyx if I wanted, and then my opponent has this objective, and I have this one. So objectives I have are 1, 2, while my opponent has 1, 2, right? So this is very unfortunate. I also, on Elf turn 6, forgot about this objective because, again, I had 30 seconds to do my turn 6. So I move everything as fast as I can. I run over here with Nyx to get a Wind Blast onto my opponent's Nyx, along with a breath attack to try to get the kill. I have these archers also shoot at my opponent's Nyx, and I have, so when my opponent charges into my tree herder, I can actually with, I can't show you without a picture, but the Lakiladon is about here, and then the Clan Lord is about here. So I have the ability to corkscrew charge into the flank of the Lakiladon, and I'm like, well, I win, right? So a tree herder into the flank of a wounded Lakiladon, I'm just going to easily pop that out. But unfortunately, I roll pretty poorly. I don't manage to kill this Lakiladon, so it's still alive, and now I'm just sitting here with my butt in the wind. My opponent will be able to lock me up if there's a turn 7, but I am contesting this objective, I want to say. I fire everything at Nyx. I do not get the kill, which is very unfortunate. So my opponent still has this objective, and then I don't think I shoot anything at our Tockle, so our she's still up and running. So at the end of Elf turn 6, I have this objective, and my opponent has this, or no, I'm sorry, I'm contesting this one. So I have this objective, and my opponent has this objective, while this objective is contested. So we roll off and we get a turn 7. I have 10 seconds on my clock. My opponent has 40 seconds, and the TO came over to talk to us while my clock was running, and so it goes over and it ends up like, I'm like, I know I had 10 seconds left on my clock because I was watching it, and it ends up going over. It eats my time, and he just goes, just play the turn 7 without clock. And so we play turn 7 without clock, and my opponent sets up a pretty cool web here where I can charge into, so the Lakiladon that's here backs up even more. The priest goes right in front of my tree herder that's about here, and so there's one hero in the front, or in the rear, one in the front, and the overrun will make it so I run right past the Lakiladon, so there's no plan there. And that's about that. Our Tockle goes for a shot onto my archers, along with my opponent's Nyx trying to get at my Nyx, so to push her off. Fortunately, my opponent's Nyx now fails and does not manage more than 1 or 2 wounds onto my Nyx. And then when they charge with the Clan Lord into my tree herder, they manage to not even hit it, so it can cast Blizzard if it wants. And that's about it. And our Tockle here does 1 wound to my, I think they have 4 wounds on them, archers, and gets the boxcar waiver. So that's really bad because I'm currently looking at the table, and at the end of my opponent's turn 7, I have this objective. They have this objective and this objective, so they have 1, 2 to my 1 objective, and I'm like, I don't, okay. So I sit there and I go, well, my plan is I can back up with the tree herder because I can. I think I end up facing like this for some reason because of the Lakiladon. But anyway, I'm facing like this, and I can back up. Or maybe I just sidestep crab walk over there to that objective, so I'm contesting this. Then I take my Nyx and I fly to the side of this objective, so I'm contesting that one, which means I automatically win because I still have this even with my wavered unit. I do try to get a kill here because attrition is a big part of the game, and I shoot into my opponent's Nyx with, I think, Blizzard. Or again, maybe the Blizzard could not shoot due to his orientation. In fact, now I'm pretty sure I just crab walked over here, so I couldn't shoot. So yeah, I get that. And all I have is this 1 Nyx shot and this ASB to try to kill my opponent's Nyx that had regened almost all the damage I had done. I don't get the kill. I can't, when I move my Nyx because of where it ends up being, it's, I can't push it off the objective. I could if I rolled a 6, because with the angle it's at, my opponent's Nyx is like this, so it's just on the edge of this. Meaning, oh no, I would have needed a 9 then. Yeah, I needed a very high number to push it off the objective. I don't push it all the way. So at the end of the game, there's only 1 control point being controlled, and I have it. So it is a 1-0 victory. The difference in attrition is like, I don't know, it's like 100 points maybe. So it is a 15-5, and this was a very hard fought battle. So I'm feeling a little shaky after it, honestly, just because it was so hard. We went to time. It's early in the morning. These games, by the way, started at like 9:30 in the fucking morning on a Sunday and a Saturday. Fuck that. But anyway, so we move in to game 5, and I am undefeated, and we're facing off against the Undead. So the Undead in the scenario being Scavenge again. So I played Scavenge in round 2, and I'm relatively certain that was the scenario we were supposed to play because I asked the TO, and in round 5, the TO left to go do something to do with the convention. I'm not sure what, but did not leave instructions for what the scenario was, so instead we just rolled randomly. We rolled Scavenge. People could not remember playing it, although I did. So yeah, either I played round 2 wrong with playing Scavenge, or everyone else was wrong. It's one of the two. We were supposed to play Loot, but Scavenge in the end. So let's move forward into my opponent's list. So first off, we have the Ilona's Thirstful Coven list, or formation, which involves Lady Ilona and 2 regiments of Soul Reaver infantry. All of them become fearless and have +1 speed in this formation. Then we have 2 troops of ghouls, a regiment of Revenant Cav with the Scrying Gem of Zelik, which is a first for me seeing, a regiment of Revenant Cav with nothing, a regiment of Soul Reaver Cav with Aegis of the Elohi, another interesting item choice, and then we have a Revenant King on Undead Great Flying Worm, so that's the new one that's fearless, with Banner of the Griffin and Hex 2. The special dragon my opponent brought was, of course, Nyx. So my thoughts on this army, it's obviously something that I enjoy. It's pretty close to what I think. I mean, I'd say it's pretty close, but I've been running Lady Ilona and Soul Reaver. I've been running the Thirstful Coven for a long time, but I thought about running it at this event in particular, and my list was similar, except I didn't have the regiments of Revenant Cav. I just had some troops. I didn't have the ghouls, and I didn't have the Great Flying Worm, but I did have at least one Flying Worm. So, you know, there's a few ways to mess around with it. As for my opponent's bit, the things, I would not bring the Banner of the Griffin. I don't think it's helpful on a Great Flying Worm. I do think it's helpful, but put it somewhere else, or bring a different, I think Undead can bring the Breath Attack one that doesn't fly, so I'd probably put it there. Obviously, you'd lose Hex because it doesn't have any spells. I don't know, it probably still has Surge, so you can probably still take Hex. Secondly, I wouldn't bring Hex there. Now, that said, I do think Nyx is, and Nyx 100% was the most popular dragon there, but Hex is really only good against Nyx, and Blizzard, of course, but since there are so few targets for Hex to really activate on, I probably would have swapped that personally for Mind Fog in a small point game like this, but to each their own. I think the Scrying Gem is super interesting, and this list definitely has teeth, so let's see how it goes with turn 1, or deployment. So we have deployment here. Let us start with the terrain first. We have a height 1 obstacle sort of in the center of the field, with a height 2 hill to the right of it. Above that we have a height 6 forest, and below this, so this is a very interesting piece of terrain. This is how I was playing it. I didn't talk to my opponent about it, but this is how I was playing it in the game in my head. I was treating each of these as a separate section, because otherwise it can make it so, well, I guess it doesn't matter. Yeah, it doesn't matter. So we have, I was going to say each is a different section for if I'm in the terrain and you're in the terrain for cover, but that's not how cover works. So we have a very large river with 2 ponds on each end. It is an entire height flat piece. Then we have a height 2 hill next to it. Above that, we have another height flat pond. Below that, we have a height 1 obstacle attached to a height 4 or 5 impassable. And below that, we have a height 6 forest. So there is a very large, a decently large piece of impassable to the right of this. You'll see it later as I put my die in there. But again, our armies are pretty small. And since we're playing Scavenge, we don't go to that side of the table. Darby Dragons. So speaking of Scavenge, again, it's a pretty simple scenario. You place 1 objective in the exact center of the table, and then each opponent places 1 objective on the center line. So I place this one, my opponent placed this one, and we're only playing on this part of the table now. So at the beginning of your turn, if you're within 3 inches of one of these objectives, it generates a loot token. The person with the highest number of loot tokens at the end of the game wins, but you can also, furthermore, only hold 1 loot token per unit. And if you ever beat a unit in close combat, you can choose to destroy their loot token instead of instead of picking it up because you might have one. So yeah, pretty simple scenario. I really like it though. So I'm kind of glad we got to play it twice, or at least I did. So starting with deployment, we have my opponent's first troop of ghouls with their first regiment of revenants. I believe these ones have the scrying gem. Then we have the second troop of ghouls with the second regiment of Revenant Cav. Right here, this is Nyx, so Nyx the dragon with Alona right in front of her. Then we have both the regiments of Soul Reaver infantry with the giant worm behind them with Banner the Griffin and Hex. So they are +1 nerve. That's good. And then we have the Soul Reaver Cav just sort of sitting here on the flank looking to come around. For the elf deployment, we have the horde of archers with Vicious, so the Chant of Hatred, with the first regiment of of shamblers next to them who do not go forward. Behind that, we have just all my horse characters. We've got the ASB, we've got both princes, and then we have the mage with Alchemist Curse. Then we have my second horde of archers that have the Heart-Seeking Chant back here in the terrain, so they're just touching it to make sure that they can shoot through it with impunity. Then we have the regiment of chariots. Yeah, that matters. So I'm shooting out of this, meaning I don't take the penalty, but I was counting each of these as a separate piece. So if my opponent is in the river, one of these river sections, or over here, me touching this piece does not allow me to ignore that terrain. Although it would, whatever. It doesn't, I don't get to ignore the entire river by being in this piece, is what I'm saying. So, and then we've got this regiment with Fire Oil Chariots. Then we have the Tree Herder with Blizzard and Blessing of the Gods, with the second regiment of Shamblers in front of him. And then finally, we have my Nyx. So the plan here, while my opponent and I were setting up, they have 0 Pathfinder. They have 2 flyers, so that's a big deal, but no Pathfinder, meaning this giant river is super advantageous to me, I believe. So I plan to abuse that if I can, and basically my plan is to use that plus this hill in the middle of the field to sort of keep them off me, because they're very fast. So the plan here, as soon as these went down, I went, well, I want most of my force to the left of it so I can deal with what's going on over here and hold these loot or the objectives to get loot tokens. And then on the right, if something gets placed down, I'll put Nyx last, which is what I did to counter that. And my opponent put the Soul Reaver Cav over here, which is perfect. So my plan the entire game is just to kill this, delay this, and delay this. So that's the and then the kill order is 1 group, 2 group, 3 groups. So that's the plan. And let's see how it all goes with turn 1. So turn 1 goes to the elves, I do believe. And first off, I have a loot counter on my Shamblers, because they vanguarded forward, meaning that they can be within 3, they generate loot, and they will back off. As elves win the roll up to go first, we choose to basically not really move forward. I just inch my units forward just a little bit to make sure that they can shoot, and that's about it. I reposition the gaggle of individuals just around the forest because I don't want to be targeted by my opponent's Nyx just yet, as I'm going to really need these chaff pieces if the game is to be won by me, as all of these combat blocks, this is just a bag of hammers that I don't want to deal with, so I make sure to do that. My Shamblers here do generate a loot token, although I think I forget to mark it until my opponent's turn, but I generate the loot token there. They are not within charge range of the Revenants, or not Revenants, the Soul Reavers, but they are within charge range maybe of the Great Flying Worm. I don't particularly care if it comes in here, because it probably won't survive a charge from these two and Nyx and Drakens and all that stuff. So yeah, I don't particularly care if this gets a charge. Nyx moves over here behind the hill because the plan here is to make it so the Soul Reavers play as little role in the game as possible. So I plan to just shoot them with my Wind Blast backwards. I don't really care if they get damaged. They do have Iron Resolve due to the Aegis of the Elohi. So the damage is pretty whatever. And otherwise, that's about it. So here is the end of the turn, and this is what my shooting does. I plan to kill off both the ghoul troops at the beginning of the game, just because they're easy points. They can get loot very easily, and I just want to make sure that they're gone before I start dealing with the harder elements. I do nix this one out, but I double won that one. So yeah, you know, it happens. So those ghouls are still left alive. Actually, I don't think I double won it. I just roll like a 3 or a 4. It's not good, and I get rid of that. But on the other side of the table, these Soul Reavers do take a bit of damage from both my Chariots and my Blizzard, because I had nothing better to do. Going into them, I do 3 damage to them, so softening them up a little bit, and Nyx pushes the Soul Reavers all the way to the board edge and manages a couple of points of damage on them, even after the Iron Resolve, because I do not boxcar that unit. So an interesting turn 1, I'm just going to play this like kill for a little bit until we can whittle down these vampires just to a manageable level. So turn 1 for the vampires, because of the amount of terrain here, they don't have a lot of things they can do. I do think, so over here, this is a big mistake, I think, by my opponent. So yeah, they're at 5 wounds. I think they're in 8-10, so it would have been a 5 to kill them. So I just rolled like a 4 or a 3. So yeah, my opponent just doesn't move at all. The Revenant Cav could definitely just walk right over the ghouls and leave them behind, and I think they should, just because a regiment of Revenants is going to be difficult for me to remove anyway. And then Alona could have moved over here just to be an Inspire bubble for this turn, but instead moves forward here. And then they maintain this battle line, when in reality they could push very aggressively, including something like these Revenants, who don't even move to actually touch the river, right? They can still move a bit more with this My Right unit to get to the river before the lack of Pathfinder, you know, does them in. And then these ones could move to the edge of the hill to not actually be 50% on it, so they're not going to be seen by this archer horde. So I think they're being a little too pensive. You can see the Soul Reavers here. Again, same thing. I had pushed them to the exact edge of the table, but with their 8-inch movement, they could have got into the river if they wanted to. And I think they probably should want to be in there, but they choose to hold back a little bit. And I talked to my opponent about this after the game, and apparently he'd played on this table before against a kin army that was very similar to mine, you know, double archer horde. It had a bit more shooting and a bit more chaff than mine, but that's what kin do. And while playing against that person, they had been hyper aggressive, and they'd won the roll off for who goes first each turn. And the second I won the roll off and was, you know, dealing that damage, apparently just put them on the back foot. So yeah, a little too pensive for me, but otherwise, my opponent does land the Hex onto Nyx. That's a pretty good hit. Hex is looking better at this point, I guess, just in the same way that I brought Fire Oil to deal with Nyx. My opponent has brought Hex to deal with it, so you know, pretty good. But Hex does not cause nerve checks, I do not believe, or even if it does, you'd have to get a really, really high roll, and I think I'd be okay taking that nerve if I got like, you know, 8 or 9 hits with Nyx's Wind Blast. But that's about it. There's my opponent fires the Alona fires her lightning bolt at me, I believe at these archers, and manages to not hit. And then Nyx fires at my shamblers, dealing 4 damage, pushing them back, I think 5 inches. And that's the end of the turn. So let's move into turn 2 for the elves. So turn 2 elves looks very similar to turn 1 elves. We maintain our gun positions with these shamblers moving just forward. You can see this corner poking into the forest. Some people miss that, where, you know, you touch the forest intentionally, and the idea here is to make sure I maintain line of sight. So it's never a gotcha moment. If my opponent asks, of course they have line of sight, and I made it clear when I was moving that I'm purposefully touching the forest, but you know, people forget. So we do that. We again back up here. I do have I'm not sure where my loot token is, but they do have a loot token, and I back them up the 3 inches they can go, and then put the Tree Daddy in the front. So the Tree Daddy is within charge range of these vampires, the Great Worm, And I don't, oh no, I am also in charge range of these vampires, but they're all in my front. And again, this triple charge can't actually get here due to my frontage not being wide enough. So I'm within range with Tree Daddy for all of them, but again, they'll all be hindered and I'm just not too worried about it. Nyx, on the other hand, is worried about it, does not want to get charged by vampires, and moves to be... I spend quite a bit of time making sure that Nyx is exactly out of range here, exactly out of range of the Soul Reaver cab up there, and still within 18 inches of this point of the Soul Reaver cab, so I can push them away. Because hex or no, I'll be casting my spell. I take my Draken Riders and who were behind this horde of archers, and I just sort of fly over here. It's actually kind of funny. They land. It's the exact movement to keep me in, or to put me in base contact with my chariot regiment. So just a fun picture. And all of my characters maintain their position behind here, with my wizard turning to shoot some heal at the shamblers. And let's see how that all turns out. So here is the end of turn 2 for the elves. I do fire heal. I do not, I think I landed one or two pips of heal there onto the shamblers. With my archers, I chose to try to kill Nyx this turn. So I've got these archers, and my chariots who all have not moved to shoot at Nyx. Nyx does not have cover against any of them because Nyx is height 4. So plan is just to shoot with all of it. I managed 9 wounds on her, which is not the best, so I'll need an 8 to kill, and I do not land it. So a little unfortunate there, but fortune does smile on me over here in that my Nyx alone fires into these Soul Reavers who were just sort of butting like this. I hit them in the flank. I do like 8 wounds to them. They're already sitting on 3 wounds. I push them into the Inspire bubble, but it doesn't matter. I easily pick them up as I push them out of the Rally bubble in the process. So they are dead. I've killed 1 unit. The Soul Reavers are free to move forward, and let's see what they do with that freedom in Undead turn 2. So Undead turn 2, this is an interesting one. First off, we've got the ghouls that were right here. I believe they just run forward to deal with me, while the Revenant Cab just again stay back. I think that this is a mistake. They should be pushing. At least by now it's turn 2. These Revenant Cav push forward, and this is what I like to see. They're just beyond the barrier. Now, they are protected against this archer, or not this archer horde, but this archer horde, because the forest is actually going to, well, nah, it's probably not going to grant them cover. Ugh. But anyway, they do what they do. Nyx regens a fair amount. Oh, no, that's the plan. Right, yeah, you've got this. Nyx can then wind blast this archer horde, pushing them back, and maintaining that cover bonus. But instead, Nyx fires into my shamblers and goes for the kill there and gets it. This is of course an end of turn shot because it's the end of the tournament. It's getting a little wild. With Hex, my opponent did end up doing quite a few wounds to me. It's like 7 or 8 because I land all those, but Nyx will just regen, so whatever. And my opponent goes for a very interesting charge here. So both of these could have double charged into my tree herder, but instead chose to charge individually at my units. So we've got the Greater Worm charging into my elementals, the Shamblers, who now actually have their loot token next to them. And then we've got the Soul Reavers going into Tree Daddy. So now, I'm not so certain about this charge. I probably would have doubled into the tree or singled into the tree and swung around with this, right? But it is getting late in the game for a cav-based undead army, so maybe that's the plan. Neither of those end up in a kill, while the Soul Reapers get into the pond here to try to actually be part of the game. So we'll see how this all goes in Elf turn 3. Oh, so Elf turn 3 is brutal. This is, of course, an end of turn shot. First off, you can see these ghouls are gone. That is because I move one of my Sir Pounces, one of my cat throwers here to just chuck a cat at them. I do like 10 wounds or some ludicrous amount, kill them off. I also have my ASB. So I have my ASB, my Alchemist Curse, and the other cat thrower right here. This cat thrower is here to throw a cat at Alona if I need it, or at Nyx. So it's obviously going to be at Nyx. And So I have my archers fire first. Both of them fire into Nyx, do fairly well with their hits and wounds, meaning I don't have to use, and then I throw a cat as well. So I think I threw the cat first. Because Alona is def 6, so who cares? But yeah, I throw the cat, I fire the archers, and I manage a kill on, or I get Nyx to double 1 town, which means that now I have my ASB and my Alchemist Curse to shoot at these Revenants, and I do fairly well as well there, along with... Oh no, I think that this Archer Horde, now that I think about it, shot at the Revenants because I fired these Chariots at Nyx. So yeah, the Chariot's backed up, it's on 4 shots on 6s, but still managed, I think, 3 wounds, because screw you, Nyx. And here's where things get interesting in the middle of the field. Now, if we roll a picture back, this is where these units end up. So in the middle here, I'm going to go for a pretty interesting charge move. So first off, I have the Tree Herder facing like so, and then all I do is take it, face it like that, walk 6 inches to the side, and then my Tree Herders, or my Shamblers here, are now in the flank of the Great Worm. So yeah, if I had taken the counter charge, I go in the front, but if I just take a normal charge, it's a flank charge. So I take the flank there, I take the Draken Riders into the front to make sure it dies, and then the plan here is just to go, well, once this is dead, I can let these guys die, and then I'll counter into the vampires if they, if they go for the kill there. So yep, that's the plan. And then I've got Nyx here to just mess around with the Soul Reavers, pushing them back again, because I want to make sure that they're not within charge range of my tree, because it's behind the behind this hill, but it is height 4 and within their charge range. So we go for that. Excuse me. So this is how it ends up going. I do get this kill in the middle. It's pretty simple. And then the tree does manage to be protected by Nyx pushing the Soul Reavers out of the charge range for that flank charge. That would have been bad. And yeah, I do get I pick up the Revenant Cab there, I pick up Nyx, and things are looking quite grim for the old undead, but let's see what they can do with their turn 2. Unfortunately, it looks like the turn die got all turned around at about this point in the game, so we walk into turn 3 for the elves without a picture of that. And here we go. It's in fact an end of turn shot, and here's what happened. So first off, I move the characters around on the left side of the field. You can see the base poking out. That is one of my princes. I'm going to shoot at the ghouls that had moved forward with one of my cats. The other prince moves to where Nyx was to ready a cat there. And then I have both the Alchemist Curse and the Breath Attack ready to shoot into the Revenants if I need them. I have both the hordes of archers ready to shoot at Revenants or at Nyx, depending on which one needs more. I want to make sure Nyx is gone, then I'll deal with the Revenants if I must. I do hide the prince from where the Revenants could see, so that's the plan there. And then the chariots back up so they can shoot into Nyx / Revenants. It's almost certainly Nyx because I have the fire oil. And then I go for a cheeky little charge here, so in the middle of the field. And let's roll a picture back. So if you look here, the Tree Herder is facing, as you can see. Now, all I really have to do is turn with the Tree Herder and then walk it 6 inches over my, over my Shamblers over here. So it walks 6 inches over here, and then the Shamblers do not have to countercharge the Great Worm. They can just regular charge it. If they regular charge it, it's a flank charge. So that's what they're going to do, along with the Draken Riders going into the front. The Tree Herder is exposed right here to a flank charge from Soul Reavers, but all I have to do to fix that is have Nyx push them back a couple inches, and yeah, we'll see what that does. And as you can see at the end of turn shot here, things work out pretty well. First off, this cat kills off the ghouls all by itself, managing quite a few wounds. I think it's like 8 or 9, so it's a spiky little thing. And then this cat manages an okay number of wounds against my opponent's Nyx, which was necessary because while I had it at 9 wounds during my turn 2, it had regen 7 of those, so it was back down to 2, and I really need to make sure Nyx is gone. So I fire off my regiment of chariots. They managed 3 wounds, even though it's 4 shots on 6s. So that feels good. And then these archers finish the job to double 1 town. And so I have my ASB, my Alchemist Curse, and this horde of archers to shoot into the Revenant Cav instead, which puts them to double 1s as well. So at the end of the game, or end of the turn, we have the ghouls gone, the Revenant Cav gone, Nyx gone, the Greater Worm gone, and the Soul Reapers pushed out of charge range of Tree Daddy. So a pretty effective turn 3 for the elves, and let's see how the undead can counter. So the undead counter mostly by just going for as many charges as they can get. You can see these Revenant just sort of, or these Cav, again, they're just too far back. They were out of charge range of charging any of these units, which is why the characters had to be facing like you see. So all they can do is walk forward. You can see I'm at 24 minutes while my opponent's at 48, so literally double my time. Alona has a charge though. She can charge the archers, the Draken Riders, or this prince. She goes for the prince for the easy points, and then probably an overrun to get out of harm's way. And in the middle, you can see the remaining Soul Reavers going for the kill on my only unit with a loot token. So, you know, currently I'm winning, but I could be dumb and run out of clock and lose due to no loot tokens. So go for that. And then we have these Soul Reavers, Soul Reaver Cav, just again moving through the pond as quickly as they can to try to get actually into my army to be effective. And here are some pictures, yeah, just a close-up of that one fight, and here's the end of the turn. So as you can see, Alona, first off, only manages to waver this prince. That is embarrassing, but I guess it saves me the embarrassment of trying to charge her with a prince and forgetting about her alluring special rule. It's something like that, where it's -1 for characters to hit her. The Soul Reavers in the middle managed to finish off my 1 unit with a loot token and take it, so technically the undead are winning right now. And that's it. So let's see how the elves answer in turn 4. That die says turn 3, but it's wrong. So turn 4 for the elves. Yeah, it's more of the same. I send a prince not into the revenants here because I just want to shoot them, but an inch away just to block them up from being able to get to my archers. My archers are more than 6 inches from this edge, so it doesn't matter. Alona, I'm going to go for some shooting because I have nothing really better to do on top of the Soul Reavers, which are now missing. From here in the Soul Reaver Cav, I charge with my Draken Riders because the Soul Reaver Cav are sitting on 7 or 8 wounds at this point, and I want to charge something with Drakens. The smart move would have been to just hold back, but I don't want to do that. I just wanted to have some fun, so I go in, and it could be a disaster, but my opponent deserves that chance, I think. So here is this is the end of turn shot. I've got the tree herder turning to face like so I can shoot at Alona with Blizzard, even though it's winning on 6s. So at the end of the turn, I don't manage to kill the Revenant Cav, which is unfortunate. I do 8 wounds to Alona, but I can't roll the 8 twice to kill her. But I do manage to kill off the Soul Reavers in the middle of the field with Nyx, which is why their loot token's up on this hill, because Nyx blew them over there. And then my Draken Riders managed to kill the Soul Reaver Cav, so the only things left on my opponent's army are Alona and this 1 unit of Revenant Cav. Still, they could win. They will be getting another loot token right here because I'm not contesting that. And yeah, we'll just have to see. Most of those wounds, by the way, Alchemist Curse versus Alona. She does not like Alchemist Curse. So let's see what happens in Undead turn 4. Undead turn 4, Alona goes after my prince, just sensing fresh meat, gets the kill there, and then the Revenant Cav go into my prince here and don't even waver it. So oof, some unfortunate rolling. And even with the overrun, I think Alona overran 1 inch, so not even really going anywhere. And these are fast turns, but let's go to turn 5 for the elves. That looks like a 4, but trust me, it's a 5. So turn 5 elves, it's very similar to turn 4 elves. I just hold back with this guy, there's no reason to charge. I take my Draken Riders and I spin around to grab the loot token on the hill. So now I have 1, my opponent has 1, I just need to kill this unit off and I win. I shoot at Alona as well. I get the kill. the Revenant Cav looks like they are still up and running for a turn 6, and we'll just have to see what I can do against them. But first, we have the Undead. So unfortunately, much like a lot of these games, I tend to be forgetful with my pictures at the end of the game. So this is the last picture we have, so we'll just have to talk about what happens. So I don't kill these Revenant Cav on my turn 5, and they get back into my Prince, easily killing it off and overrunning. And then I just fire all the bows. I walk these archers into the hill or into the forest so they can see. I move my chariots. They can actually see the Revenant Cav by moving 8, I believe, this way. Nyx moves as well to get a shot, and I just completely annihilate them. So it ends up being a 1 loot token to 0 victory, and the victory points end up being a smashing 20-0. So 5 out of 5 games in this tournament, we got wins and we got 2 20-0s, so it puts us way in the lead. But the only prize I particularly care about, I mean, I win best general here. I'm the only undefeated, I think, at the in the event here, and my scores are so high, there's no way I don't win it. But I don't care about best general, really. I want best overall. So we'll have to see what happens there in the wrap up for this game in a second here. So see you then. Hello everybody, and welcome to the Emerald Dragon GT wrap-up. In the background you'll see some pictures of the armies I took pictures of at the event, including my own this time, so I remembered. And yeah, generally speaking, when I do these wrap-ups, I do a good, bad, and meh category, but I didn't really do that this time around, as I thought they were all kind of intermixed and on the whole very positive. So let's just get down to it and start out with the dragons. So first off, I still think Shenron is amazing. I don't think you really got to see what Shenron could do at this event because no armies really brought that Alpha Strike potential. So I still think that about Shenron, but Nyx, I will admit, is likely just as powerful. I didn't see the counterplay of an army like mine when I was first talking about playing under 2,000 points, where generally speaking you want Alpha Strike armies, but you could also do something more like mine, which was you could focus on range. Either way, you are focusing on high tempo versus high value, and Nyx is a very high tempo piece. So anyway, the other special mention I'll give is to Emerald, which turned out to be an excellent dragon in very niche lists. Both the lists that ran it, which were the Trident Realm player I played in round 3, and an Abyssal player that I've also played on the channel somewhere here. It should be the latest versus Abyssal report that I did, but both of them used Emerald, and I thought it was an excellent pick for those armies. The other 2 dragons, I think Vermithrax was brought, and Diggy Hole was not brought. I don't remember the name of that one at all, but I don't really have anything against some of these dragons just not being very good, because you should always have something for different types of players. Some players are not here to win the event, they're just here to play with a Diggy dragon, which is fine. The only difference being that I think it behooves people to explain which ones are kind of a joke pick. So anyway, that's my thoughts on the dragons. Let's talk about the tables or the terrain. Last year, I came to this event and the terrain was pretty middling to bad, in my opinion. A lot of the tables I looked at were either pretty standard, what is it called, the dwarf deployment thing that people use, or it was, I played on one table that was so bad that it was inexcusable. It had a giant piece of rough terrain in the middle of the table, and then it was flanked on two pieces of impassable terrain, and my army of Ratkin literally could not get out of the difficult terrain. It would have taken me 3 turns to get out of it, and by the time I did, I would have been on the center line and in my opponent's army. So yeah, I'm glad that didn't exist this time. An answer to that question is never. You and your opponent can fix it. The point of going to an event is that with set terrain is that it's set. I do not get to alter it. So I was really glad to see that criticism was followed up on with this event. The terrain I thought was excellent. It's definitely not the way that I would set it up, and it looks okay. I thought it was fine looking terrain, but considering I was either there or built a bunch of it back in the day, I'm not going to blast it too hard. But I really liked seeing the terrain layouts that were not the way that I would do it, but still a balanced and interesting game. That's what I come to events for, is to see something different. So very happy to see that. Next up, let's talk about the people. So this is more of a mixed bag thing. About 50% of the people who attended this year, I have either did not attend last year, and I have only seen a couple of them in maybe 1 or 2 tournaments total. But under 50%, well under 50% of the people who attended last year attended this year. So it's a little good with bad there. It was nice to meet new people or simply get a chance to chat with people I've only seen at one event, such as the Kingdoms of Men player, Cameron. I know I've seen you at an event before, but I have not had the chance to talk to you yet. So it was nice to get into that. But and I understand that a lot of people that came last year did not come this year because they're out of the game. So the Pacific Northwest has had a difficult 2019 in that we've made very small gains, and for every gain we've made, we've lost someone. So I think everyone added has been a boon. I really enjoy talking to new people, and I have yet to meet someone up here that I won't play. They are out there, even in Kings of War, guys. But yeah, I like everyone here, but it's unfortunate that we can't get a higher turnover just yet. So, and that was reflected in the number of people at this event, I feel. Next up, let's talk about painting. So this was a smaller event, but I think people really dialed up their painting this year. I was very happy to see a lot of the well-executed armies, which isn't to say that they are pieces of art. I'm a big proponent, which if you've ever talked to me on the Kings of War chat anywhere, you can know that I don't really view miniature painting as art. I view miniature painting as as a craftsmanship. So it could be art. You could be going for an emotional plea and a lot of things like that, but the vast majority of what we do, it comes down to execution of techniques, and the second people start thinking about it that way, it makes it a lot easier to get into the deeper intricacies of painting an army. So I was really happy. A lot of people at the event this year brought armies that it was a good mix of people that had actually tried and really wanted to push their ideas and try out new mediums and all that, and people who went, I bet I could get an army done that looks nice, right? So that's great. That's exactly what I'm looking for. There's nothing better than there's no better painted army than the army that you get to put down. So anything you do, if you have someone help you, if you get it pro painted, if you do it yourself and you just get the paint on the models, all of that is great, man. So I was very happy to see that this time around. We only had 2 unpainted armies, and one was a full samurai army from a new player, and the other one was a full kin army that I know for a fact the person who has done it has spent an inordinate amount of time doing everything else around the army, right? A lot of conversions, a lot of custom tokens, and a custom dice cup, a lot of cool stuff. So really happy to see that. Next up, let's talk about the generalship. So while I enjoyed all of my games, I thought they were all great. Round 3 and 4 were especially interesting to me. They were incredibly tight games. Both of them came down to the wire on the clock, and I'm not gonna lie, but specifically they were amazing because generally when it comes down to the wire in Kings of War, I tend to lose on that turn 7 because Kings of War is an end of game, right? The end of the game is the only thing that matters. So I was really happy to have won these ones finally, and specifically my round 3 opponent, the Trident Realm player, I've never beat in a tournament before. We generally have very close games in tournaments, but I've never won. So I was really happy to pull this one out. It's it always feels nice to get that because it feels earned. So yeah, I really like that. I thought the tournament as a whole had a very like-minded sort of generalship, everyone vying for the top but not going too far. Next up, the painting contest. So one of my favorite parts about this event is something that they've taken from previous tournaments I've gone to in the area, which back in the Warhammer days used to host a single model painting contest along with the event. So there's of course the best painted, there's no player's choice at this event. Instead, you just put down a model based on some sort of base rubric. So in this case, it was put down a dragon. Last time it was put down a character, which I was not a fan of because, I mean, bigger is better. That's the rule for winning a painting contest. The larger, winning a painting contest from the general populace is that you want a lot of pop, you want to be noticed, and you want to be large. So character is not a great idea. Dragon, they're all about the same size, so you know what you're getting into, and yeah, I really like that. I was disappointed that my entry did not do as well as I thought it would. I'm not saying that it was better than the winner or anything like that. I'm just saying that I put down a model that I brought in case for the Ringer army. So I put that down, and a lot of people seemed confused about the fact that I didn't put down the dragon I used in my elf army. But that's not against the rules specifically at all. You can put down whatever model you want. Does not need to be in your army. And I always think it's a little weird that when people downvote for stuff, or not downvote, but do not vote for you for stuff like that. But at least it's something that I can use. It's good data for next time. So that was a good part. I love painting contests. I love seeing the models. Unfortunately, I did not get any pictures of them because I was out buying beer, and I didn't even get to see the winner's model out on the table because he deployed it a little after I had left. So that was unfortunate. The one thing I will say about painting contests is that the timer for judging painting judging painting, having a painting contest, stuff like that, I hate when it's at lunch because people are always coming and going. If you're gonna do it, just set aside 10 minutes after a round and force people to walk around the event, right? It's just easier that way, or make it so you can put out your dragon at any time. Whatever you want to do, it's just don't do it at lunch. Everyone does it at lunch, and it's just the worst time to do it. You could even do it when you're tabulating scores because someone else can tabulate that score for you. So those are my thoughts. Anyway, moving on to the prize spread. The TO of this event, Tom, always does an excellent job with his prize spread, always manages to bring a lot to the table. I really enjoyed this year's version, which was the winners in each category gained Mantic bucks, so you gained like a gift certificate to Mantic, and then everything else was raffled off. So you could win it if you were in first place, but you had just as big of a chance to win it in first as you did in last, and that's sort of what I want to see. I really like stuff like that. If you're gonna have physical prizes, as in something that you take home and you build and you paint it immediately, those are great for not lower end players, but newer players, right? Who, I mean, one of the newer players here, the Abyssal player, placed very well in this event. And if he could get his paint scores a little bit higher, would have done amazingly in the overall. So yeah, it's not just about the bottom half. I'm also not a fan of that. Like, you're incentivizing people to lose, in my opinion. But just incentivizing people to come, you give them random prizes. So really cool. I enjoyed that. As for my list, I definitely wasn't surprised that I was able to do well with this army. I went 5-0, but just because elves are really, really powerful under 2k, or even at 2k. If you're under 2250, elves are amazing. So yeah, I wasn't too confused about that, but I was happy to have that cemented in me a little bit more. It's one thing, for me at least, to understand something mathematically, and another to actually gather heuristic for it. So in my personal experience now, yes, elves are better at lower end points than a lot of other armies, and math-wise they're better. So that was cool. I don't think I'd make any changes to the list mechanically. I like how it performed. It did all the things I wanted it to do, and even the little niche choices I made, like fire oil on the chariots, played out pretty well because I expected there to be a lot of Shenron and Nyx, and boy were there. So yeah, I really like the army. The only thing that I would change about it personally is that I phoned in a lot of the painting on it, just because I have a lot of painted elves, and they were painted by various people in various periods. So I have some that were painted back in '04 and by newer players in '07 and stuff like that. Especially the archers are like that. And yeah, and I also I dedicated, I think this army was done in 2 days total, so 48 hours. Spread over 2 weeks, of course, but yeah, if I were to go back, I'd probably spend more time on the archers. I did not like how they didn't match the army, and I'd bring up my my highlights that I skipped on a lot of these models, like the 4 shamblers and stuff like that in the future. But anyway, besides that, I really liked it. I liked doing the little details I had. I painted like a severed finger the day before, because why not? That only took, like maybe 30 minutes. So that was pretty fun. I made like a letter. You got an extra point in this tournament, and you got it last year for writing a piece of fluff about your or story about your army. And you can do that however you want. You can be as inventive as you want. The year before, I wrote a series of journal entries. This year, I wrote a letter from an opponent that my army was looking for. So I sealed all my army lists with wax, which didn't work very well because the wax I had was not built for it. But anyway, you can do what you want. You don't need to write a short story, guys. You could just write, the names of your characters and who they are as people, or you could write a letter of intent. You could write a challenge letter. You can do any sort of thing, right? It's just about getting creative and getting invested in the army you brought. So I really liked that part of the event, and I liked what I came up with this year. Now for the result, which is what most people here are waiting for. We'll start with Best Sport. In third place, we have Cameron Performant, who was the Kingdoms of Men player. Did not have the pleasure of playing you, but hopefully next time. In second place, we have Tony Zamuda, who is my round 3 TR opponent. Tony is always an amazing opponent. I'm not surprised to see him place well in here. And then we have Eileen Chadbourne, who was the dwarf player here. She has a gorgeous army, is very fun to play, and it's always impressive to see someone with that tough of a list place well in sportsmanship. Now, granted, our sportsmanship is rubric based, as is the painting in these events. So you got sportsmanship points for stuff like turning in your list on time to the TO, so they had time to check the validity of it. You got it for showing up to your games on time, having your dice, having your tape measure. That's the vast majority of your points. I think it was out of 50. It was all that. It's all basic stuff. And then you gained a few extra points for favorite opponent. So first, second, third got you 3, 2, 1 points, I think. But anyway, so it was mostly about stuff like that, and then the extra is what your opponents thought of you. So pretty cool. For Best Painted, we have in third place a tie between Ryan Munsell, who is my round 4 opponent, the Salamanders player, and Eileen Chadbourne, the dwarf player. I think both of them were let down a little bit just from army fatigue. If you didn't know, a lot of people that are against best overall scores will say, well, you painted an army and then showed up to X events and you get to do that forever. Here's the thing, you get to do that with army lists anyway. I don't know how it's any different for painting, besides the fact that you've created a nonsense argument. But the other part of it is that there is real fatigue for seeing an army that you've seen. It doesn't matter how good the army is, the more you see it, the less likely you are to vote for it as a psychological piece. So both these players have won in the past, and you can see their armies, as they keep playing them out here, are dropping lower and lower in painting, because we've seen them. So anyway, both of them have fantastic armies, rant aside. In second place was me. So yeah, I took second in painting, which is about, I don't know if it's where, I think I would be somewhere in the top 5, because I played the rubric pretty well. I made sure I got max points there, and I was let down by the fact that I had these really janky archers that I had put down, and then I hadn't really finished brought my models to the top highlight, but again, this was a mechanical, this was get the army down on the table, so I just skipped a lot of steps anyway, but I was really happy with the bases, and while I haven't yet really tried to paint any Kings of War armies, I think that might change in the future. I might put some effort in next time. So it was pretty cool to hit that second place. And in first place was Dustin Howard, who was the Herd player. I love his army, it's really cool. And for the first time in an event, since I've seen him in events, we didn't play. So that was that was a little unfortunate. I love playing Dustin. So yeah, really cool army. I think any army there that was painted could have placed in the top 3, and I would have been like, yeah, that makes sense to me. So anyway, moving forward, we have Best General. In third place, we have Eileen again and Dan Wright, who is my round 2 Forces of Nature opponent, both placed third place. So a tie there. I think Eileen pulls ahead due to the tiebreak for, I think painting was the tiebreak, or maybe sportsmanship. But anyway, I think she pulls ahead a little bit, but in just pure generalship, they got third. In second place, we have Tony Zamuda, again, my round 3 opponent, the Trident Realm, always a very canny player. And the best general was Ryan Munsell, my round 4 opponent, who was the Salamanders. So I played first, second, and third, if you count Dan, first, second, and half of third, right? Because Eileen takes half and Dan takes the other half. So I'm feeling pretty good about my strength of schedule there. And then for best overall, we have Eileen Chadbourne, who is the dwarf player, who tied with Dustin, the herd player, but won out on tiebreakers because I think she had higher generalship points by 1. Then we have Tony Zamuda in second place. Always cool. His army is really nice, if not £1 million. He's got a really cool Kraken. And in first place, we have me. So I won best overall. Felt really good as I was in 8th place, I think, last year, and I got to shoot ahead this year. So yeah, some nice changes there. And if you're one of those people that wants to know who won because you want to know what the powerful armies are, let's talk about the best general again, where Ryan won best general, but only because I won best overall. I think I was ahead by like 27 points. I was ahead by more than a game, and I won this event by 39 points total. So painting, sportsmanship, and battle. If you're someone that cares about just painting, the best painted was Dustin Howard by like 2 points. I think he beat me by 2 or 3 points. So yeah, Dustin Howard pulls ahead. And if you care about sportsmanship, Eileen Chadbourne won this event for best sportsman, but technically I got the highest sportsmanship vote. So yeah, there are your winners. I won. If you want to talk about who won the event, I had the highest points in all categories except for painting, where I got second. So when you're talking about best overall, this is what tends to happen in my opinion. If you're talking about who won the event, you do have people jump ahead due to their painting ahead of people in battle later. But here's the thing, if you don't have a combined category, you don't have people shifting disciplines. You don't have people who are primarily players learning how to paint or upping their game, and you don't have painters learning how to play, right? The only thing best overall does is increase the number of people trying out different disciplines that make up the whole of this game. If you just have best general, you're kind of missing out. I do think that best general, I think that people should be more cognizant of saying who won an event, because best overall is not necessarily the person who did the best in the event mechanically. And a lot of times when people are asking who won the event, they want a rundown of which armies are doing X well, right? So in that case, look at best general. But best overall and best general were me. So thank you. Send all your accolades to my address at wherever I live. So anyway, that is my review of the event. I'm not sure when the next report will be. We'll see. But until next time, thank you for watching, and bye.